Hi guys, welcome back to the Academic Carnival. This is part one of the literature review series for health and social care students writing their final year dissertation. If you have any comments or questions about part one, part two, part three, or part four, please write your comments and questions in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you within a day or so. And also, let's start a discussion in the comment section. Discuss whatever you want, and we'll have an open discussion in the comment section. Please, it's also important that you listen to each of the 4 parts because they help build a cohesive picture together. It'd be very difficult to understand how to write a good review without listening to the 4 parts. And these 4 parts are derived from students' works. I make sure every time I teach, every time I engage with students, I use their works to inform other students. In this presentation, we shall first define what a literature review is. This will be followed by a look at the structure of your literature review. How do we structure it? This will be followed by referencing your review. And lastly, we'll look at the differences between critical writing and descriptive writing. All of these 4 areas, particularly the last area, is very important to writing your review. It's fundamental that you have an understanding of these 4 areas as you write your review, and particularly the last section. You'll need that to understand the template and write a good review. What is the most important part of your dissertation? Yes, you guessed it, number 5, the literature review. The literature review is the soul of your dissertation. It contains most of your word count. The person marking your work will spend most of their attention and time looking at your literature review. The literature review is important because it forms the basis of your methodology, your aims and objectives, the background, the conclusion. It's impossible to do these sections without a good literature review. What is the aim of a good review? A, to describe everything you have read, every single text you have read. Is this a good aim? To describe a single study, to review the subject area, or to provide a picture of the state of knowledge and of the major questions in your topic area. I will lean more towards C and D, particularly D. There is a notion that you want to provide a picture. It's not every single study, but a broad picture of what is happening within that particular subject area. What is the state of knowledge within that particular subject area? And what are the major questions within that particular topic area? This is what I would aim towards if you want to produce a very good literature review. What is a bad review? A description of each study. This is very Wikipedia-esque. There's no need to go through every single study and describe every single study that you've come across. Rather, you want to stand back and look at the valley of knowledge and pick certain parts, leave certain parts, but you don't want to be very descriptive and just describe every single study. Arthur said this, Brezant said this, Hodder said this, Smith said this. Rather, you want to look at studies collectively and what are they saying in that respect. There may be times in your literature review where you will focus on a single study, but that is because that particular study is very important. Many authors have cited that study. That study has led the field. That study directly addresses your objectives. There has to be a reason. Using just a few studies, no, you need to use a lot of studies. This shows that you're deeply connected to the literature and you're deeply engaged. A bad literature review has no signposting. By signposting, we'll talk about this much more in depth in the third part, but by signposting I mean telling the reader what's happening. Don't make it be a treasure hunt or a detective hunt where the person marking your work has to try to understand what's happening. Rather, make it very clear. Indicate what you are doing and why you are doing at every turn. When you transition to another section, make it be known. Like I said, we'll talk about this in much more depth. Using different aims and objectives. I've seen this a lot where the initial aim and 4 objectives slightly changes, and some of the time changes a lot throughout the review. I will always make sure that you stick to the aims and objectives in your background, methodology, literature review, and ultimately conclusions and recommendations. And failure to stick to the subheading. In your literature review, it will be divided up into subheadings or divided up into themes. You have to make sure that you stick within these themes. You don't stray and talk about other matters. If you're talking about prevalence, stay on prevalence. If you're talking about the factors, stay on factors. If you're talking about the implications, consequences, outcomes, you're just dealing with that. And if you're talking about government interventions, non-government interventions, make sure you stick to that. Do not stray into other sections. Prevalence, purely about prevalence, nothing else. This is what you have to make sure. This should broadly resemble what chapter 3, your literature review, will look like. You'll start with a mini introduction and you'll go through a number of themes. How do we get these themes or subheadings? First of all, the themes or subheadings are derived from your objectives. So this is the student's objectives, and she turned it into a subheading or a theme. Another one of her objectives was to look at the risk factors, and she changed it into a theme or a subheading. This was the third objective, and she changed it into a subheading. And the last objective, she changed it into a subheading. This is very important. Turn your objectives into subheadings. Just some points about referencing. Reference your literature review as much as possible. The more referencing you can put in within the paragraphs, the better. This shows that you have read widely. This shows that you are deeply engaged with the literature. This shows that you have put a lot of time and effort into writing your review. Also, when you reference, use a variety of sources. Don't just use the same source. Khan 2017, Khan 2017, Khan 2017. Mix it up a bit. Show some diversity of sources that you're using. Because if you use the same source, it gives the impression that you've only read from one source. So even if that one paragraph was critiquing Khan's 2017 study, try to bring in some other sources to substantiate your claim. So avoid listing Khan 2017, Khan 2017, Khan 2017. Put a source in between there, mix it up, show some diversity. And lastly, a significant portion of your grade will be affected if you don't reference properly. 20 to 30%, and sometimes even lead to plagiarism charges if you fail to reference properly. So please make sure that you try your best to reference. I would recommend to download the London Metropolitan Harvard Referencing Quick Guide. If you go to Google and type London Metropolitan University Harvard Referencing Quick Guide, you'll be able to download the 4-page document, and within this document it will show you how to reference on every single occasion. How to reference from a journal, how to reference from an edited book, how to reference from a website, and so forth. I can't recommend this enough. Please, please, please increase your referencing as much as possible. Now we have come to perhaps the most important part, how to distinguish between critical writing and descriptive writing. This is very, very important for when you write your review. You have to distinguish between critical writing and descriptive writing. Descriptive writing is very important because you describe before you analyze. You describe before you critique. So you have to know the difference between descriptive writing and critical writing. So let's begin. Let's begin by describing what is descriptive writing. Descriptive writing is when you make a clear description of people, places, objects, or events, charts, graphs, tables, statistics. You describe what's apparent to you. You describe what's in front of you, what you can see. You don't go below the surface, beneath the surface. You describe what is in front of you. So it's largely non-debatable. There are 26 people listening to this talk. Not there may be, or perhaps there are 26 people listening to this talk. That would be a case of descriptive writing. So if you notice, the language is confident. There are 26 people listening to this talk. Not there may be, or perhaps, or there could be, there are 26 people listening to this talk. This is very descriptive. Critical writing, on the other hand, in contrast, is you're looking for a deeper meaning. You're making explicit what's not apparent. For instance, I said there are 26 people listening to this talk. I don't know the reasons why you're listening. So if I was analyzing or critiquing, I would try to find the reasons why 26 people are listening to this talk. And it's largely debatable. I could be right, I could be wrong. I don't really know why 26 people are listening to this talk. So my language is cautious. Perhaps they're listening to this talk because it could be they're listening to this talk because of this reason or for that reason. It's very cautious when you critique, very cautious when you analyze, because you could be right or wrong. Whereas descriptive writing is very confident, very upfront. Critical writing, analytical writing, you tread very carefully. Now, we will put all of this into practice. I have here a number of scenarios, and I want you to tell me if it's critical or descriptive. Explaining how something works. Is that critical or descriptive? Descriptive. Identifying the significance of an argument. Is that critical or descriptive? Critical, because it involves you evaluating something. Telling a story so far. Is that critical or descriptive? Descriptive. Weighing up one piece of information against another. Is that critical or descriptive? Yes, critical. Stating the method used. Is that critical or descriptive? Yes, descriptive. Identifying whether something is suitable. Is that critical or descriptive? Yes, this is critical. Indicating why something will work best. Is that critical or descriptive? Yes, it's critical. The why gives it away. When we talk about analyzing or critiquing, you're trying to find the why. Generally, in most cases, you're trying to find the why, whereas descriptive writing is the what. Structuring information in order of importance is always causes debates. I would lean to it being critical, because in order for you to structure information or in order of importance, you'll have to evaluate something. This should go here, this should go there, this has more value, so this should go here. It involves some type of critical analysis. So I have here now two paragraphs, paragraph A and paragraph B. Can you tell me which one is critical and which one is descriptive? You can pause the YouTube video now to try to find out which one is critical and which one is descriptive. Yes, you guessed it. Paragraph B is critical. It is critical because of the language, because it's engaging with theory. So very cautious language. It appears that the key workers did not intervene. So you can tell by the language, and you can tell by the fact that it engages with theory. Whereas A, utilitarianism is an ethical theory, not maybe or perhaps. It's very confident in the language. So this is one way you can distinguish between critical and descriptive. Another comparison, which one is critical and which one is descriptive. You can pause the video and let me know. Yes, both of them are descriptive. Even though this is an excellent approach, and this is something that will get you marks in your literature review, both of them are just telling a story. Both of them are just saying what is apparent in front of them. Nobody's doing any digging as to the reason why. They are all just observing what is happening. There is a growing body of academic literature. For over 2 decades, researchers have lobbied. They're just telling you the lay of the land is very apparent, very descriptive. But still, even though it's descriptive writing, you can still get a lot of marks for this. What I like about what both of these students have done is that they've used a number of studies. If you see at the bottom of each paragraph, you'll see their referencing. So it's as if they step back with a bird's eye view to acknowledge what is happening. You would have to do this within your literature review rather than saying one study, Chandler's doing this, Mers is doing this, Gilbourne's doing this. Rather, they've grouped studies together, and this is what you should be trying to do within your literature review. Now to summarize critical writing and descriptive writing. You need to describe before you critique. You need to describe before you analyze. It's a very important skill. Rather than analyze straight away without description or describe without analyzing, you need to be able to do both. Both of them are very important. They have a symbiotic relationship. Second, be aware of critical analysis, of criticality and description in your writing. You should know in your review what is a critical sentence, what is a descriptive sentence, what is a critical paragraph, what is a descriptive paragraph. You should have this in your mind when you're writing. And also reference both critical and descriptive writing. Like I've said previously, I can't say this enough. Please reference as much as possible. Thank you for listening to this part. Please listen to part 2, where we apply some of these ideas into part 2. Thank you for listening.